What are some of the things that you have identified as the make it or break it indicators that say this person is not just the person who is looking for a job? This is somebody that wants to impact and change the organization.
Kloete helps business owners attract and retain top talent fast using a proven 8-step process with a 1-year guarantee on placements and 20+ years of results-driven expertise.
Great leaders don't try to portray themselves as perfect. They're vulnerable. They're authentic. They know they're not perfect, and so they surround themselves with great people. Someone who thinks they have it all together, those are the ones that worry me. One of the things I look for is emotional intelligence, high EQ. One of the components of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Let's say I were to give you a check for $10,000, and the only stipulation on that check is that you have to spend it and invest it on your own personal and professional development. Tell me how you would spend that money. Really what I want to know is, do you know where your weaknesses lie? And are you willing to tell me? If you answer right away, very confidently, and you've got your act together, you move up the ranks because you're very aware of where you're weak, and you're unafraid to be authentic and tell me about it.
This is Career Blast in a half.
In a former life, I was a recruiter. I was a recruiter at one of those big, prestigious, worldwide, global, billion-dollar companies. And over the course of time, I was being called all over the place, sometimes by candidates, a lot of times by our client partner, and of course, internally. Life of a recruiter is no cakewalk, especially when there's so much that's happening in the world, the said talent shortage, and also with the ever-changing landscape of today's hiring market. This is why I brought in Rick Kloete. If you don't know Rick Kloete, I just got to tell you, big heart, nice guy, huge supporter of the work that I've been doing, and also somebody who has really taken recruiting at a different stage in life as something that is not only differentiated within the world of recruiting. He does a lot of work around making sure that he is guaranteeing his services and also spotting top executive talent. Rick, I want to thank you so much for being here, for everything that you do, for being such a great LinkedIner. I don't know what that term is. And also for bringing it to us straight and clear. And that's why we're talking about how to win recruiters over.
Good morning, Lauren, and thank you for having me. Yes, I am a big supporter. I love that you're one of the former recruiters that actually get it. Not all recruiters do get it. And I love the way you approach it as well. Love your energy. I love that you're not just like everybody else out there. You know, coaches are a dime a dozen.
That's
Good
true.
Coaches, as my grandmother would say, they're as rare as hen's teeth.
All right. Well, here's to Grandma Kloete. So you said some recruiters get it and some don't. What's to get? Like, what's the get that you wish more recruiters would get? And where is the gap?
Well, you know, there's software out there now today, Lauren, that can scan resumes and look across the internet with the advent of course, AI, as we all know, that can spot people who check the boxes. And the boxes are the number of years of experience, the right industry, the right job titles per se. But when you're looking for executive talent, leadership is a unique skill. It's a blend. As we talked about the other day, you and I, you're not hiring a title. You're not hiring a resume. You're hiring a person. And so when you get that person, you get that total person, everything that makes them up. Are they a good cultural fit? So the recruiters that get it are the ones that understand you've got to peel the onion back many layers before you really understand who that person is. And that takes time. You can't rush that process. It's like rushing a good dish. It's not going to come out well.
I really like what you just said. There's a lot of check the boxes. And I want to just use an image that came to mind as you were saying this. It's not candidate by numbers, like paint by numbers, right? That used to be a very common practice. Oh, they went to this school, they have this title, they have this, tenure, right? And those things would signal something that it doesn't anymore. And so if you are an executive on the market and you've been hustling your keywords and botting all over the place and making sure that AI is doing this, what are some of the things that you have identified as more or less the winning or make it or break it indicators that say, oh, that this person is not just the box checker or the person who is looking for a job. This is somebody that wants to impact and change the organization.
Yeah. Well, as a recruiter, I can slop it up and do this easy, or I can do it hard. To do it well takes time. You said it there at the beginning of the podcast. This is no cakewalk. It's an adventure. I love it because every day is unique. Every day is different. Every candidate's different. Usually every job is different, as well as the culture. But candidates that stand out to me are those that are curious, lifelong learners, excellent listeners. Many of the things I look for are things that don't necessarily show up on the resume. They may not even show up on the first interview or the first screening interview by one of my associates. So when I say peel the onion back, you peel the layers back, you want to get into some of those soft skills. For example, I'll give you an example. One of my all-time favorite questions. I'm letting the cat out of the bag. I hope nobody listens out. People will hear this and get it. One of the things I look for is emotional intelligence, high EQ. It's one of the largest indicators of future success is high levels of emotional intelligence. Well, one of the components of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. So if I were to say, Lauren, let's say I were to give you a check for $10,000 right now. I'm not going to do that, but let's say I did. And the only stipulation on that check is that you have to spend it and invest it on your own personal and professional development. Tell me how you would spend that money. Okay.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for this slush fund.
So I love this question because it's not direct and it sounds like I'm asking you about, tell me about your weakness, right? Really what I want to know is, A, do you know where your weaknesses lie? And B, which is more important, are you willing to tell me, right? Because if you have trouble with this question, it's a bit of a red flag. If you answer right away, very confidently, and you've got your act together, you move up the ranks in my opinion right away, because A, you're very aware of where you're weak and you're unafraid to be authentic and tell me about it, because great leaders don't try to portray themselves as perfect. They're vulnerable. They're authentic. They know they're not perfect. And so they surround themselves with great people. Someone who thinks they have it all together, those are the ones that worry me.
You've said so much here, and it's also up for suspect, because what I know, and I'm not discounting what you're saying, what I'm saying is we've heard this again, right? Soft skills are hard skills. They are not I'm like, flicking something off my shoulder. These are not a nice to have, not at this level. And most people, from my experience, are not investing in them because they think that they already have them, or they don't value the impact that they have. And so you just said it yourself, right? It may not show up on a resume. So how would you indicate some of, whether it's emotional intelligence, whether it is, which I'm just going to put a placeholder there that says, self-awareness, and or other soft skills like listening and curiosity. How do you suss that out first interview and or even before that?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that most recruiters that tell you the truth will tell you, and I will tell you this, when I look at someone's LinkedIn profile, for example, the very first thing I do is not look at their title, not look at their current job. I don't even look at their years of experience. I scroll down and look at the very bottom of the profile where their volunteer activities, what are their social interests? Are they involved in things outside of work? Do they have recommendations from people that they've worked with and for in the past? And what do those sound like? Are they real? Are they, just made up or teed up, as I like to say? Those are pretty good indicators because, as you know, if a candidate tells it to me, they could be telling me a tale, as my grandmother would say. But if someone else says it, it's more than likely the truth. And especially if many people say that, which is one of the reasons I encourage executives to solicit recommendations. Everyone has someone that would recommend them. But if you have it in writing, again, it's hard to argue with someone else's words when they are sincerely telling you what a wonderful person this is. Or I like to say, you're hiring the whole person. Is that person all work and no play? Are they single-minded? Some roles require being single-minded, but most leadership positions, especially at the CEO, COO level, you get your job through to other people. So if your relationship skills are weak, because your leadership skills will be weak, and success leaves clues. The clues are you've led the local, Volunteers of America. You've donated money and your personal time at the local rescue mission, whatever it might be. That tells me you have a heart to give. You are a servant, not just someone who looks to be served.
So I love when people are loaded with recommendations, and are you looking at both the ones that are received and the ones that are given?
That's a great question. It's better to give than it is to receive. And one of the things I've learned is I have given far more recommendations than I've received, but I suck at asking for recommendations. I just don't do it. But you know what I've noticed, Lauren, is every person I've ever asked was more than happy to do it when I ask. So get over yourself. Ask people for help. You can't do it yourself. You need help. You need a coach. You need a recruiter that can help you. But you remember the movie, I think it was Cuba Gooding was in. He said, "Help me help you." Totally. Remember Tom Cruise said, "Help me help you." And you have to help me. You have to work with me, right? If you have a great skill, but you can't articulate it, you might as well not have it. It has to be something you understand, you can articulate, and back it up with real life stories that are proof that you possess that skill.
And metrics, yes, metrics.
And metrics, always. And those have to be on your resume as well.
So shout out to, please, if you don't have a more recent log of recommendations, I want to say start writing them and watch what happens. Because the law of reciprocity can kick in very quickly. So don't worry about the ask right now. Start with the giving. And that is one of the things that is super evident, but a little bit more nuanced. And I love that you go down to the bottom. I want to address this quote unquote myth that we were talking about right before the show. I run into this. I'm confident you run into this. I call this the do me request. Hey, here's my resume. Help me out. Like I need a job fast, or like I'm looking for this. What have you got? What have you got? So talk to us about how our candidates and folks in the market can do right by recruiters, because there's a lot of recruiter dissing, right? Oh, they don't call me back. They're not necessarily that responsive. But where are you needing to draw the line? Because there's only so much that you can do. Where and how should folks on the market come to the table so that you can help them, show them how you can help them?
Yes. No, I get it. You're right. The myth out there is that send the resume to a recruiter. You're a professional. Okay. It's like a parent sending their kid to school, and for 15 or 20 hours a day, you mess with the kid, and then you think the school can fix them in a couple hours a day. They can't. Nor can I magically make the perfect job up here. Right. So I call it, make it easy to do business with. Okay. Mm-hmm. Does your profile have your email and phone number? Are you clear about what you're looking for? You'd be surprised how many times I talk to executives who are in transition, and I do it all the time. I've been that person, so I know what it feels like. I know the emotions. When you're going through career transition or you're managing your career, you want that next new adventure. It's both an exhilarating and terrifying time. And it's primarily because of the uncertainty. It's exciting because you get to write your own ticket. It's terrifying because sometimes you've never done it before. Maybe you've been poached from every previous company and now you're actually looking and you don't know how to do this. Well, you need a Sherpa, you need a Lauren, you need a Rick. Okay, but we're not going to do it for you. So the things that you can help with would be make it easy to contact with, stay in touch, be interesting, not just interested. Okay, and build your brand. So your brand is everything about your today. One of the things about recruiting that's changed these days is everyone has a social footprint that we can all go out and find. So I don't necessarily check all references early in the process, but do I poke around? Does our team poke around in your social media? Absolutely, because more jobs are lost than are won. And so avoiding those pitfalls, the things that you really don't need to have out there for public consumption. But the way you can work with a recruiter is be clear about what you want, be clear about what you've done. And if you're looking to do something different, be clear about that, articulate that, explain that. And then I also will ask, when I'm working with a client looking for candidates, I'll say, are there any cultures or companies you want me to stay away from? And you'd be surprised. There are companies that say, no, I don't want anybody from XYZ company. They have tons of resources and they're just, the people that work there have a one-track mind and we want more creative types. Okay, that's all those things. The more information you give me, the better equipped I am. So don't just say, here I am, I'm great, look at my profile, get me a job. It's, what do you want? What are you looking for? How quickly do you want it? Are you looking for a change or do you want to stay in the same vein? A lot of executives I talked to today are in career pivot.
Right.
They're pivoting to a new industry, maybe to a new title. And some titles, we're going through a phase with this whole AI thing. It reminds me of the '08 mortgage lending crisis, Y2K, the advent of computers. This is a revolutionary time. So, but the skills, the top 5 to 7 skills all leadership candidates should possess, and all my clients are looking for, they're pretty much the same.
List those 5.
Yeah, right off the top of my head would be, and I agree with you, they're not soft skills, they're hard skills. One would be emotional intelligence right at the top. And there's 4 or 5 components, self-awareness being one of the ones I look for. Someone who is a very good communicator, both orally and written. Everybody puts that on their job spec, but can you demonstrate it? Do you practice it? Do you work on it? Are you honing those skills? If you can't get up in front of a group and speak, you're not going to be hired as a leader. So that's an area we can all improve in. Toastmasters, training. I look for people who are lifelong learners. So if I ask a candidate, for example, hey, what books have you read recently that have really impacted you, or what courses are you currently taking? And they give me that stare in the, that deer in the headlights look. Okay, is it a deal breaker? No, but it's an area of concern because the earners are the learners. The people I know that are leaders are always devouring new information. This world is changing at a more rapid pace today than ever. If you're not keeping up with it, you're not going to be a good leader. And we want leaders who are up with what's going on, even if it's your assistant doing it and then briefing you on it, right? Mm-hmm. But they're all interested. They're curious. So curiosity would be one. I would say another one would be people skills. It's not just communication skills. That's empathy. That's curiosity. I call it ARU. Are you a good leader? ARU. Here's what it stands for. A, do you appreciate the people on your team? Mm-hmm. Do you show appreciation and can you receive it? A, appreciation. R, respect. Okay. Do you respect the people in your team? Because when you respect the people on your team, they will run through a brick wall for you, right? Mm-hmm. And then the third one, U, is understand. Do you understand what the company needs, what your team needs? Do you empathize with where they are? Do you really know them? Are you talking to them? Do you listen to them? Because here's the thing, everybody wants to be appreciated, respected, and understood. And when your team feels that from you as a leader and it's real, it's not made up, you're not doing it for effect, that's really who you are, that team will perform for you. You'll have a high performing team when they feel that from their leader. So are you the kind of person that exemplifies those traits, right? I could talk an hour about those 3 things alone, but I won't. We don't have time.
No, I first of all, thank you for this framework. It's easy to remember and it's universal.
It is universal.
It doesn't even matter. You don't have to be an executive to start exercising, ARU. And I appreciate that too, because you can sniff out that conduct even before you do anything related to your job. You would
Yes.
literally see the signals, feel the signals, and also with consistency. A lot of people are like, networking doesn't work. Well, you can start building this bank right here. That's how
Exactly.
we met. I mean, we were
Yes.
freaking commenting, compadres.
That's right.
And that's how it happens. It's not, there's no scorecard or necessarily, what do they call that? It's where there's like this point system, right? We're not counting back and
Right.
forth because it happens so organically.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add to that appreciation is, on the top list of 5 things I look for, people who give credit.
Mm.
And when you look at their recommendations, people that thank them, they really appreciate. I appreciated working for this leader because they didn't take all the credit; they gave credit, right? So people who, when they're describing their achievements, for example, which is you always get asked that in an interview, right?
Sure.
Tell me about something you've achieved you're really proud of. If you take all the credit, great. That's great that you were a part of it, but no leader does anything by themselves. They do it with their team. That's how they achieve success, through their team. Are they recognizing those people? Because people that are getting, recognition and praise, there are people that truly motivates them. I'm one of them. Okay. So I had a guy when I worked at AT&T, he was a manager of mine, could not have done my job to save his soul, but he appreciated the work I did and continually told me thank you and appreciated me and recognized me. You know what? I did a better job for him because I knew he appreciated my work. That's a universal thing every leader should have. And the great ones all have that component.
So good. All right. I have a little bit of a, I guess you could call it auxiliary question. I have a question because you and I are both, as my kids sometimes call me, not a green banana. And what that means is we're at a different stage of life. I'm 60, I'm about to be 61. And a lot of folks are scared out of their bejesus of how corporate has been treating those who are on the more mature level of their career.
Seasoned.
Call it over 40. I'm not a seasoned person, so I don't use it. But you know where I'm going.
Yes.
Is it changing? Is it like there's 2 camps? One that says, you know what? Leave corporate, go find a smaller company where there's less old ideas. The other one says, hey, you know what? If they don't want you, you just like accept it and move on to an organization that accepts that sees that not as a deficit. But I would love to get the temperature check from you.
Yeah, this is a great question, and I get it all the time. Ageism is a real thing. The demographics at a macro level are such that the boomers are retired, or the end of the boomers are beginning to retire, not just the boomer generation.
Right.
And that brain drain, that intellectual property that's walking out the door, almost none of the companies I work with have done a good job of building up mentors or mentoring that next generation. Many of them are having to go out and hire it, right? What I'm going to tell you is the law of supply and demand applies here. There's not enough of that next generation. Now, when you get down to like Generation Z, there's a ton of those coming up. It's going to come back up, but we're in a kind of a down cycle in terms of just sheer quantity of talent.
Mm-hmm.
So there are more people, but not more qualified people. I laugh at some of these recruiting platforms out there and apps that say, within the first 24 hours, you get a quality candidate. You notice they didn't say the word qualified. Yeah, might be a quality candidate for some other job, but not my job.
That's it. Right.
We're looking for the qualified candidates. And so I would tell you that, number one, if you're a candidate and you're concerned about that, I always say you bring it up and you set the narrative. You don't let that, because many times they won't say anything, but it's there. So let's get the bloody moosehead out on the conference table and let's talk about it. Okay. And the way that I typically will coach candidates, and I never tell a candidate what to say in an interview because I want them to be them. Because if they get hired, they're going to show up for work, not me. So, I don't want them to think that, again, I don't want to oversell a candidate. But I tell them, I say, if you think there's an area of concern, whatever that might be, in this case, let's say that you think I've had a client one time tell me, we're looking for somebody who got a lot of runway, a lot of runway is code for young. Okay.
Right.
So I immediately retorted to the client and said, okay, Mr. Customer, given the choice between the most highly qualified candidate and the one with the most runway, which of those would you prefer? And of course they say, oh, of course, we want the most qualified. Great. That's what I thought you said. So given that, I'm going to bring you the best qualified candidates, regardless of anything else, age, sex, religion, family, religious or whatever. It doesn't matter. You want the best person who can do the job. Because by the way, I'm an outside agency recruiter, but my records can be audited just like your HR department. We can all go to jail if we break the law, and I'm not going to do that. Okay. So, and by the way, I want the best person who'll stay there the longest. Now, here's the other myth. Not only is if you're longer in the, you don't have as much runway or you're longer in the tooth, whatever phrase you hide it under, the people who know what they're doing, there's a myth that I'm going to hire this person and they're going to stay for 10 or 15 years. Okay. The average person coming into the workforce today will have 12 to 14 jobs in their lifetime. No one is staying 10, 15 years anymore, anywhere.
Right.
So get over the fact that you need somebody who's got 15 or 20 years to give to you, because wake up and smell the coffee. They're not going to do it. Okay.
Right. Let me just translate that. So 12 to 15, is that what you said? 12 to 15?
Yes. 12 to 14 is the...
So the latest turnover that I have identified is about 3 years, 3.5 years.
That's spot on for a CFO for any C-level.
Right. So what that means also for anybody who is like thinking to themselves, this is going to be my last job, more coffee to wake up for, right? This is not going to be your last job if you have 10, 15, even 20 years left.
Right.
And this is also shout out to career agility, right? This is, if you don't start to apply a lot of what you said, most of what you said, all of what you said, you will be back in this position after you check the box and get a JOB.
That's right. And here's another element of what we're talking about right now, Lauren, is someone who's been around the bush a couple of times. You asked me, what are those top 5 things I look for? One of the things I look for are people who have faced adversity and overcome it. And they can tell you the story and articulate not only what happened, what they did, and what the result of it was, right? In that order. Because when I see a perfect resume, a person who's never been in trouble, never had a problem, born with a silver spoon in their mouth, so to speak, went to all the right schools, have all the right jobs, they scare me a bit. I want somebody who's been in the fire and has the singe marks on them, and they live to tell the story, right?
No
because
wonder we're friends.
Yes, because those people, there's only 2 kind of leaders, those that have been in trouble and those that are going to be in trouble, right? If you've been in trouble and you've survived it, you must know something that maybe I don't know. I want those kind of people around me.
Right. And what you said about putting the bloody moose head on the table with your age, vulnerability and emotional awareness, right?
That's exactly right.
Same right here. I've been through hell and back, and guess what? All good. Like,
yes.
It's going to show up again. It's not like, okay, I often say, it's not like the market's going to get easier. Oh, it's because of the market. Well, it's not going to, it's like, there's not going to be a better time than right now, because it's not that the market is going to all of a sudden revert back to, hey, easy apply at this level.
Yeah. So one of the things our clients are looking for in a leader, many times, especially at the C level, is someone who's a calming influence in the storm, right?
Mm,
And so they don't panic at the first sign of trouble.
right.
They have vision, they cast the vision, and then they support and enable their team to accomplish the mission, but they firmly believe in it. So, I heard a real famous person one time tell me, as when you feel like you're talking about culture too much and your vision, you've probably just gotten started, because the more you talk about it, the more it becomes real. If it really is inside of you, a good leader casts vision and then supports the team to accomplish that mission, almost like a cheerleader or a coach. But if you don't believe it, they will know it. So you can't be a fake.
Right. They'll sniff that out. Rick, Kloete, I will be forever grateful for not only this conversation, but for being a standout recruiter. I used to make jokes with my kids, right? Their dad was a lawyer and I was a recruiter. It was like, yikes. You don't necessarily come with a lot of, expectations of people thinking that you're doing right by them. And you are doing right by so many people, and you're really standing up for values and ethics, telling it like it is. And as I said earlier, just a generous LinkedIner and supporter. Please, everybody, make sure that you follow Rick. The link will be in the show notes. And just as a gentle reminder, guys, this podcast is part of my labor of love to you. I ask one thing, and that is please subscribe. Second thing, as a bonus, because I'm going to ask you for a bonus, is to write a recommendation on Apple Podcasts. Make it easy. Click the stars. So I thank you so much for listening, for being here, and also for being such generous ears to all of our episodes, including this extra special one. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Thank you for joining today. We appreciate your listening ears. Big time. We ask this: use these tools, not tomorrow, right now, and share them by spreading the love, leaving us a rating and subscribe so you don't miss the next Career Blast in a Half. Most of all, thank you for you.